Hello everyone. Welcome back to another episode of r/malicious compliance. In today's episode, you want me to intentionally break a client's new computer. Only take breaks when I tell you to. Sure, no problem. Well, you shouldn't have fired the IT guy then. Before we get started, be sure to subscribe so that you will never miss a video. Let's get started. You want me to intentionally break a client's new computer. As you'll probably be able to tell, this one happened a while ago. Fair warning, this is pretty long. I used to work for a mass merchant retail chain, and my job was repairing/servicing/setting up devices our clients decided they didn't want to deal with themselves. I'm trudging along when one of the sales floor associates, let's call him Worthless, or WL, comes back to me. WL, I have a computer for you to set up. Me, okay, take it up front and have them fill out the paperwork. WL, that'll take too long. It won't, he was just an impatient idiot. Me, I need that paperwork, or I can't start working. I also need it so if there's anything I have questions about I can contact the client. So they need to verify the information is correct. WL, I already have all the info. He didn't. Me, good, then go up front and have them make the proper paperwork. I can start it as soon as I get it. Worthless leaves in a huff that I won't just take it, but I think that was the end of that since he didn't try to fight it anymore, and walked back up front. But alas, that's never the case. Instead of just taking the 4 minutes to do his damn job the way he's supposed to, he thinks his time is better spent telling the manager, whom we'll call Useless, or UL, that I had the audacity to not immediately start on his unsigned nonsense instead of following procedure. There's a reason we get our clients to sign paperwork. So in walks Useless, carrying said computer, a box of Windows XP, and the pile of paperwork from the sales floor. Not the ones for me, just the scribbles they use on the floor. UL, what's the problem here? Me, I don't have a problem, I just need him to get the paperwork filled so I can start. UL, well, the customer's already gone, so just get it started. Me, that's bad customer service. What if I need to ask a question or have an issue? Have we verified the information? UL, I think I know how to train someone how to write down 10 numbers. I'm visibly annoyed, but I take a look at the receipt to make sure everything is at least paid for. Now, what I did not realize until I actually looked at the sales floor notes was that they want us to remove the copy of Windows 8 that came on the new computer. At the time, 8.1. And install Windows XP. This is a terrible idea, and I have to make this known. Me, are we seriously going replace her copy of Windows 8 with Windows XP? That is a terrible idea. It's not going to work. Why would she do that? UL, something about needing a software to run that won't work with 8. We've already sold her on a copy of XP, just get it done. I don't want to hear anything else about it. He leaves my area and I look at the contact info, since I need to explain to this lady exactly why this should not happen. Lo and behold, the phone number written down is the store's, not the client's, so I can't even call. I know this will end badly, but I figure screw it, and start unpacking. Since I'm neither a moron nor as lazy as the other two in the story so far, I take the extra time to create recovery media for this old lady whom by now I'm convinced does not actually know what's going on. I then proceed to wipe the drive, install XP, and exactly what I thought would happen did. For those who don't know, when you need a piece of hardware to play nice on your computer and work with the OS, the software that controls that is called a driver. Some are plug and play and will work just by connecting, like a keyboard. Others, like graphics cards, you'll need to install software. Nothing on this machine had working drivers. I go online to double check, and not a single piece of hardware that comes on this computer will work with XP. The earliest some hardware would work with was 7. At this point, I've done my due diligence and wait for this lady to call. I don't bother packing up anything because I've been at this long enough to know what's coming next. Eventually, she calls, the call gets routed to me, and I explain things to the nice lady. NL, hello, I was just wondering if my computer was done. I haven't heard back yet. Me, hi, sorry about that, but they never actually got your phone number so I couldn't call. I did finish what you requested, but I very much need to speak to you about it. NL, is something wrong? Me, well, the version of Windows you wanted us to install is not really supported anymore, and none of the drivers for your computer will work with it. NL, what does that mean? Me, in simpler terms, the video card can't properly display all resolutions in its range. The DVD burner won't recognize DVDs. The network cards can't connect to any networks. The full capacity of the hard drive can't be seen. And only 3.5 gigs of your 8 gigs of RAM can be seen. Also, all the other peripherals, such as the card reader, can't be recognized. NL, few seconds of silence, so what good is it then? Me, it's not. This was a terrible idea, and had he actually brought you up here to speak with us, we would have told you this was the exact result. Out of curiosity, since what few notes I do have are pretty much scribbled on a napkin, what did you need XP installed for? NL, to install my Hoyle card games. Now, I can't attest to this, but according to my co-workers, an audible snapping sound could be heard from inside my skull cavity. After a few moments of heavy breathing and resisting the urge to beat Worthless to death using Useless as the bat, I compose myself and resume speaking. Me, ma'am, I had the foresight to create recovery media. Go ahead and come in with your game, and when you get here I will install it for you. For the inconvenience, if it won't work, then I'll go grab a similar version for you myself to install, or just grab you some from the Windows store for you. NL, what about my copy of Windows they had me buy? Me, normally we don't return open software. But if they give you grief at the customer service desk over it, I'm going to be authorizing it on the paperwork I'll be making for you. I collected her correct information, made the proper paperwork, left my plethora of notes detailing all the lovely time that got wasted due to procedure not being followed, undid that nightmare and got it up to snuff. What I didn't know was that while I was finishing up, she had already gotten back to the store, caught our GM, and gave him an earful over all the time and money she had wasted because of Worthless. When she got back to us, I had her sign the papers, the way it should have been in the beginning, and managed to have the game installed before they had even finished the return transaction for the Windows she didn't need. It was most definitely not designed for Windows 8, but it managed to run anyways. Still no idea why they told her she needed it without checking. After all was said and done, she could not be happier with me and spent another 10 minutes of the GM's time telling him how amazing I was and how I saved the sale, and some other stuff I don't remember. Point is, she was happy. I explained to the GM the whole fiasco. Not getting contact info, being told to install a software that will basically render her purchase useless, refusing to get a signature so we could have had a real issue had it gone to corporate, etc., along with copies of all paperwork and notes. He took Useless and Worthless to the room next to my work area, and through our almost non-existent walls I got to enjoy hearing the GM tear both of them a new one about doing things correctly, and not scamming the clients just to add to the cart. Then he kicked Worthless out of the room to hear Useless's excuses. Found out he didn't even not train them like we thought. He straight up trained the whole department to do the exact wrong thing. We've just been pulling up the slack for them. It took a while, but things got better, mostly after Useless was fired for an unrelated incident, and Worthless quit because F this place, only to not be able to hold on to any of his other jobs that wouldn't put up with his crap. Moral of the story, yes, it takes time and may seem stupid, but procedures are there for a reason. Just follow them, and if they fail, at least it won't be your fault. Only take breaks when I tell you to. Sure, no problem. I used to work at a call center where we would get flooded with calls constantly. This is a story of how a busybody boss thought they understood everything since they were in charge. At the work we were given to 15-minute breaks and one 45-minute lunch break. The breaks were scheduled into our day so you could see when they would be. But this would change day by day. My role was a bit different than the normal agents, as I was specifically dealing with the higher issue calls. These calls could take up to 1 hour to complete, and the caller would need to stay on the line, unless they were fine with a call back later, but this was rarely the case. Since I never knew when I would be getting these calls, my break times were a shot in the dark if I would or wouldn't be on a call. I would just take them as soon as the call was done if they ever intersected, which they did 99% of the time. Enter my boss. During a performance review I hit all the marks except for attendance. I asked about this as I know I missed a few days, but always with a reasonable update for time frame, and never had a no-show day where there is no warning that I'm not coming in. My boss stated that attendance also applies to break and lunchtime, and since I rarely took them at the requested time, I was getting written up. I explained my role that they hired me for and the challenges involved. They did not care and stated I needed to take breaks when I was told to. I asked for them to send me an email so that I could print it out, put it on my desk, and never forget again. My boss smiled ear to ear, probably because they thought I was groveling at that point. And sure enough they did, stating in the email, you must take your breaks only when the schedule tells you to. No time else. There is no excuse. I saved it, printed it out, sent a copy to my own email and followed it to the letter. Next call that happened that same day, of course, had the long call crossing over with a break issue. I asked the customer if it would be okay for a call back. They said no. I stated that unfortunately I cannot stay on the line as I am required to take my break. They became enraged and demanded to speak with my boss. I told my boss. They said that I need to apologize and finish the call. I showed them the email they just sent to me and said, "You told me to take my break at this time no matter what. I'm just doing what you told me to do. I'm taking my break. Would you like the customer transferred over? Or should I just hang up?" They took the call over, and from that day on I never had a missed attendance mark. God, busybody bosses are the worst. Well, you shouldn't have fired the IT guy then. In a past life I worked for an MSP and we got a new client. The IT guy was at his wit's end. He had been there for 5 years, and in the last 3 had not had a day away from work. The straw that broke the camel's back was returning from the beach to his hotel room to find several messages from reception. They were work calls asking about mundane stuff. So he hired us to help out so he could actually get back on track with his workload and occasionally actually have a holiday. It turns out his employers were very, very tight-fisted. And within 2 weeks of hiring us, their boss, a man who hears only what he wants to hear in hours, a salesman who thinks everything is a sales opportunity. It seems I were going to do in half a day a week what this person had been doing full time. Now, as I said, my boss was a salesman. Their boss heard what he wanted. I have always pictured the conversation they must have had as a montage moment with 3 cells on a TV screen. One with the inner monologue of my boss on the left, one with the inner monologue of theirs on the right, and the real-life events going on in the middle. Somehow my boss thought he had negotiated to sell them a new phone system. I only do IT, not telephone. And their boss thought that we would take over maintenance of their ancient Toshiba analog system. Many other similar misunderstandings between them took place that day. Their old IT guy was the absolute epitome of anything with a plug on it is my department. That is not how my company worked. The MSP I worked for had some characters, and some jaded employees who didn't care. This client would quickly make me transform to the latter. The client mailed across their works list, and the girl who scheduled calls diligently copied and pasted the contents of the email into the works order. Replied that's all fine to the client. She had only been doing this job for 15 years. She had still yet to learn to review client requests. I arrived for my first half day at the client. My site contact came up and we were going to prioritize the list I was handed. Me, item 2. Contact, oh yes, can we do that one first? Me, change the strip light in your office as the bulb is flickering. Contact, yes, it's so annoying. Me, no, I only do information technology. Computers, servers, network hardware, broadband, etc. I don't change light bulbs. Contact, oh, but the last IT guy did all of that. It was the start of the long half day. Other items included, look at the AC unit that was making noises, reprogram 3 extensions on the Toshiba phone system, swap the first and second floor copiers between floors. Of a list that was 14 items long, only 3 were actual IT issues. This client soon became a regular contributor of some of the most head and hands cases we had ever received. Oh, but the last IT guy did all of that, became their closing statement. With such greats as a panicked call at 1758 help. Our door security system won't let us lock the front door. It turns out their IT guy did the door entry system for the whole building as a side hustle when they moved in. They had money but didn't like spending it. They had a team of accountants in Singapore because they were cheap, but the accountants kept resigning because they couldn't do the work as the account system was based in England, and they were connecting over remote desktop to the UK office running on an 8 meters B down 1 meter B up a DSL line. I remember the meeting, it was great. CB equals client boss, me equals me, IT equals internal IT guy. CB, another accountant resigned and complained the systems are too slow. IT, like I said, we have a slow broadband line. We need a fast low latency line, not a home user speed one. CB, me, what do you think? Me, I agree, your line is far too slow. It would be unworkably slow, making their job impossible. You need a leased line. CB, too expensive. As I said, my boss was a salesman, so he sold them. Another 8 meters BDSL. I had to sit the bosses down and draw a picture to tell both bosses why the new line and all the load balancer settings in the world would not fix this. Here is a sinking ship. You need a big pump capable of shifting hundreds of gallons a minute to get the water out. You currently have a bucket. Instead of selling them a big pump, you sold them another bucket. One of the final nails in the coffin was the logs from their door entry system. There was a corner office with a DB9 wall port, which had a serial cable going to a workstation with never turn off or move. Door entry database computer written all over it. We got the support call that the ops lady couldn't get the door entry logs. The database connects, but there were no logs for the last month. I went there. The computer was gone. They had a new starter. I recognized the chassis under his desk. Again, I had to give them a puppet show for your entry logs to be recorded. This computer had to be in that corner office with that big long cable plugged into the back. That big long cable is resting on the floor without it connected. This computer doesn't get the new logs. What about the last month's logs? How do we get them back? You don't. It was a real-time serial connection from the door system. Why did this computer get moved? The boss thought it was doing nothing and moved it himself. He didn't want to buy a new one. I was very happy to say we parted ways shortly after that. We told them they required an on-site guy permanently. They hired the cheapest person they could find. For 3 weeks he was logging tickets daily asking about how things worked. We could have gotten him up to speed if we had 6 months. But after 3 weeks they canceled their support contract. The last I saw of their new hire was him leaving the local supermarket with a job application form. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and we will see you in the next video.